up, baby! Yeah!
My nipples are all hard and
I'm gonna pwn noobs.
Flying mounts, new professions, new races.
I'm looking for world PvP because I hate Horde, so I kill Horde when I see Horde.
I've always found World of Warcraft to be pretty fascinating, and most people probably think that's because it's existed for 20 years or it has phenomenal gameplay or this extensive lore and world building that's just super impressive. But no, I'm most fascinated by the hate surrounding this game, because I don't think I've ever seen such a dedicated, I guess it wouldn't be fan base, it'd be what, like hate base. And sure, I feel like other games get their fair share of hate, and that's reasonable. I understand why, but there's something about World of Warcraft where people are just so dedicated to hating on it and making sure that how bad the game is in its current state, whether or not they've played it in even the past decade. I mean, seriously, there are definitely people who have not played in well over 10 years. Like I said, it's been out for almost 20 years. And some of these people have not played in over a decade, but are still on like the socials and going to the forums and things like that just to realistically tell you how bad the game is nowadays. I mean, it's almost impressive in a way. I mean, you got to have something that keeps you going. And if hating on WoW is the thing that does it, more power to you, brother. But this all got me thinking, what is it about World of Warcraft that just generates so much, disdain and like aggression and kind of contempt for the game for people who I'm certain used to love the game? Because to be fair, I think most people, once a form of media has become something they don't enjoy, they kind of just move on and then look back fondly on the times that they had where they did enjoy it, and they call it good. That's good enough for them. When it comes to ex-World of Warcraft players, it's like Blizzard abducted their damn family or something, like just did something so unforgivable that there's no getting past it. Why is that? And now before we actually get into, why I think there's so much hate around this game, I've noticed that there's probably 3 different varieties of World of Warcraft, haters or people that hate on the game. And those come down to what I will call the boomers, the doomers, and the anarchists. Now the boomers, they just want the game to go back to what it used to be. They're just not happy with the current state of the game. And they come in a few different varieties as well. You have the ones that are extremely vocal, just being like, oh, the new game is just shit. Like, it's horrible. Who would ever play this? And then there's the ones who are like, yeah, I mean, it's good for what it is, but I just wish it was back to what it used to be. Beyond that, we have the doomers. These are the people who either still play the game or have recently stopped playing the game and are just, again, not happy with the current state of it. Either, things aren't balanced how they want. They're not happy with the new content, the new feel, the new vibe. They're just, things aren't going how they want. These are like the most jaded people you'll ever meet, because no matter how much they, vocally hate on the game and aren't happy with things, you're still going to find them playing it, and they just won't stop. It's like the World of Warcraft equivalent to that Tyler 1 clip where he's talking about being addicted to League of Legends. Those are the WoW people that fall into the doomer category. And then last of all, you have the anarchists. These are the people who, no matter the current state, no matter anything, they're going to hate on the game, and they're going to do it very vocally. Some of these people either just have never played the game before, they just hate it because it's, the biggest MMO out there, and maybe they play another one or something like that. They haven't played in ages and just no constructive criticism. They just, want to spew hate towards the current game. Again, maybe they've never played before, but they just have some serious beef with Blizzard, which is completely understandable in a lot of cases. But regardless, they don't want to see the game get better. They just want to see it burn to the ground. But with that out of the way, we can get into the reasons why this game is actually hated on so much. And I would say the first reason, and probably the main reason that it gets so much hate and so much strong hate, is the fact that people just loved this game so much at one point. They have extreme passion for it. I mean, you have to, right? You have to, have loved something so much to still years later, even without partaking in it, still go there to try and, initiate change or, spread hate in some cases. But regardless, the point remains the same. I would go out on a limb and say that World of Warcraft has potentially the most dedicated fan base, or at least at one point dedicated fan base. And, they just have the most passion for the game. They dedicate and dump their lives into it. And I think World of Warcraft was the game where like video game addiction started to become like a topic of conversation in mainstream media, because kids were just playing the game nonstop. They were, putting aside their schoolwork. People were losing their jobs because they would just not attend them because they wanted to play WoW. I mean, I feel like everyone who is into video games has seen the World of Warcraft episode from South Park. And yeah, sure, a lot of people probably think that's like hyperbole and a little bit, just extreme. But it's not that far-fetched. Like, people really play and treat the game like that. I mean, certainly less and less nowadays, it seems. But back in those days, man, like, WoW was like a religion. It had serious mainstream media penetration. Like, do you guys remember all the advertisements and like marketing campaigns for World of Warcraft back in the day with like Mr. T? People truly loved this game, or at least at one point loved it, and, you know, treated it like it was, I don't know, their baby. Like it was a part of them. They dumped a part of their soul into this damn game. And I mean, that's great, but the problem becomes once that's kind of like taken away from you from, you know, whatever the circumstance might be, whether that's the game changing or, you know, environmental changes at home and things like that, whatever it might be, once that's taken away from you, it kind of just turns into like disdain and like contempt. I mean, some of you might not remember, but like, you remember the hype of Game of Thrones around like, what year was it? 2017, you know, when the final season was coming out and just everyone knew about the show, whether or not they actually liked it or originally had watched it. That was World of Warcraft in like the gaming space. That like 2010 to 2012 period for World of Warcraft was absolutely insane. The hype around it and the love and the support and the passion was just unmatched. And I still don't know if to this day that's ever been matched. So yeah, I think the first reason that there's so much intense hatred towards this game is because at one point, those people genuinely loved this game so much and it feels like it was taken away from them. Which brings me to my second point, and that is change. The game has changed, and it hasn't just changed a little, it's changed a lot. I mean, God, it's been out for 20 years. Like, of course it's gonna change. I mean, think of how much video games have changed in the past 20 years. And the thing with World of Warcraft and really MMOs or any game in this style is that people get a certain idea of what the game should be and how it should play and how it should feel. And that doesn't really ever go away. And I think that really all begins to take shape whenever you start playing the game, which, to the public's knowledge, the most popular the game has ever been was in the Wrath of the Lich King days, right? So that like 2010, 2012 period. So a majority of people have their idea of World of Warcraft as being how it played back then, right? That makes sense. That's how they learned it. The game was simple enough where it felt like anyone could pick it up and really enjoy it. You know, you could pick it up and play with your friends who have been playing for years. They could really help you out and still have really good time together. But there was the complexity at the end game that really made people feel like, you know, there's something for me if I've been playing this game for a really long time. Nowadays, however, the game is kind of extremely complicated. I mean, it's been through 20 years of development. It's realistically, it's got to be bloated, right? I mean, anything after 20 years of development where you're not just scrapping all the content prior, it's going to be extremely bloated. So we have extremely passionate players with a certain idea of how it's supposed to feel and play, you know, alongside a live service game that is going to continually change and evolve no matter what, because that's just how the world works. So of course the game gets away from the image that players originally had of the game because, you know, it's evolved and changed. And for instance, I'll put up a video of a current dungeon in the World of Warcraft, you know, something from the newest expansion versus an old dungeon from the initial release. And yes, these are both World of Warcraft. Obviously the art style and everything's pretty similar, but other than that, gameplay wise, it's completely different. They're just not the same. A lot of ex World of Warcraft players who played back in maybe the first few expansions would look at what's going on now in the modern game and just think, this looks like garbage. And they will let you know that. You'll see that on like any sort of, you know, message board or comments on social medias. If you see a clip of the retail version of the game, the newest, all you're going to see is people who used to play the game spew and hate about it and how bad it looks. And that's because the game has just simply changed beyond what their view and like scope of the game was back when they used to play. Change is never really an easy thing to deal with, but when it comes to MMOs and a game that people feel so passionately about, I don't think you could ever receive more backlash for change anywhere else. I mean, if you guys are in the World of Warcraft space in any capacity, you've probably now seen that Quinn video that came out, what, a few weeks ago, where just everyone was reacting to it because it was just, you know, it's a big streamer giving his thoughts on the game they play. And hating on World of Warcraft, you know, puts asses in the seats. It does very well. So of course people are going to watch it. But I think more or less his point is that he's just falls into the community that just wants the game to go back to how it used to be. You know, it doesn't fit the image of what they want in the game anymore. Things have changed. Things have evolved beyond the point where they can recognize it as the game they loved. Now, luckily, he's not someone who's going around just shitting on the game for no reason. You can tell he genuinely loves the game and just wishes it the best. He just doesn't agree with the current state of it. But most people, they get a little feisty about it. And to be fair, you can't really say one side or the other is right. Whether people just enjoyed the modern version of the game or enjoyed the old version of the game, you can't tell someone that their opinion on that is right or wrong because it's completely subjective. I mean, you can enjoy whichever version of the game you want. That's totally up to you. It's, you know, whether or not you decide to actively shit on the other, you know, side of the fence or not. But people can enjoy and hate on whatever they want. That's their complete right. The problem is, I think it's just a hard pill to swallow that the game they love, probably the game they've loved more than any other game, is never going to go back to what they once enjoyed the most. Another point that I think kind of plays into this is the fact that hating on the game makes the decision to not play it a lot easier. Like, I think if you hate on something, you can more actively feel like you've made the right choice in stopping playing it because with World of Warcraft, it's an addiction, man. Like, people actually get addicted to this game. I think it's like, I get video game addiction is like a bit of a meme or whatever, but I would say this game probably produces the closest thing to it that has ever existed. And I mean, it is genuinely hard for people to stop playing this game, even if they don't like it. Like, I've talked about the people who are just doomers about the game, they still play it. I mean, there is so much sunk cost fallacy with a 20-year-old MMO that, you know, even people who stopped playing in the second or third expansion, they'd already sunk so much time into this game that it's extremely hard to stop playing it. But hating on it and telling others that they're stupid for playing the current version, it can help you get through that, for sure. I'm not saying that's everyone, but I'm certainly saying that there are definitely people like that who exist, and I get it. I mean, I do. But I think my last major point of why people hate on this game so much, it oftentimes has nothing to do with the game. People do not like Blizzard, and I completely get it. I mean, Blizzard is a pretty shady company. And again, this comes in a few different varieties of hate for Blizzard as well. I mean, some people dislike Blizzard because they've just changed the game to something that they don't align with. They don't like the way the current game plays or feels, so they blame Blizzard for that. I mean, who else would there be to blame? You have people who hate Blizzard because of things like adding the in-game cash shop, the WoW token, where you can, you know, actually kind of pay to win. You know, you buy gold within the game completely legally against no TOS. Character boosts, faction changes, all these different things that people, especially in the older mindset, do not agree with. People really took that to heart and like did not agree with it. Then we get into the serious stuff where, I mean, y'all remember the lawsuits and stuff a few years ago? Yep. That was pretty rough, huh? We won't get too deep into that, but let's just say there was a lot of issues going on over at Blizzard. And yeah, a lot of moral, ethical, and just actual legal issues going on within the company that I can't blame you if you don't want to support their games anymore. People just can't separate the art from the artist depending on the circumstances, and that's completely reasonable. I get it. But yeah, you have all these factors that just compile and eventually lead to the disdain and hatred of the game, starting with the passion and the love of it that eventually turns into hatred because it turns into something through change that they no longer enjoy, fed by a company that's not really respectable, and you kind of see why people hate on it. Now, to be clear, I don't really care if you play the game. I don't care if you love the game. I don't care if you hate the game. I don't care about your opinion, to be completely frank. Like, it doesn't matter to me. You can do whatever you want. But like I said, I just find it fascinating the way that people will go out of their way to hate on the game and make others feel like they're stupid for playing it still. If you love the game, play the game, man. Do what you want to do. If you hate the game and want to make sure everyone knows it, then you go online and tell people, man. You could do what you got to do. But until next time, appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you later. Peace.